let's get into these NFL offseason free agents. Before we do that, I want to explain to the cap isn't real people. I don't want to say these people are bad at math because that would be rude, but you're misunderstanding how the cap math actually works. So let me try and work this out. Let me break it down a little bit for you. So the way cap hits actually work and the way contracts are announced are not exactly the same thing. For example, let's say me signs a 3-year, $99 million guaranteed, $120 million total contract with the New England Patriots, right? The Patriots ain't giving out that type of money these days. We will get to that later. So the average person hears that and is like, oh, 3 years, $120 million, he's getting $40 million a year. It's not exactly how that works. What's actually happening is the cap hit is going to be different every single year. Even if you just did the guaranteed money, those 3 years wouldn't just be $33 million a year. That's not how that works. So it'll be something along the lines of year 1, it'll be 20 million. Year 2, it'll be 40. Year 3, it'll be 60, somewhere in that range to make the math work out. Which is why you hear things like such and such is restructuring his contract to push the guaranteed money back. So that guaranteed money, they're still going to get it because it's guaranteed at signing. It's part of the contract. But think of it as a interest-free credit card. We're going to pay you this minimum payment this season. So instead of paying you all 40 of your fully guaranteed that you were due this season, let's restructure this so the cap hit will be split between this season and next year. So we're going to take this 40 that was supposed to be the hit this year, split it in half. So we're going to put the 20 onto the 40 you were supposed to get next year. So now next year will be 60, barring we don't restructure you again. And that is how teams are able to open up cap space. But the flip side of that is you end up in a situation like the New Orleans Saints, where they've been restructuring contracts and kicking the can down the road and putting stuff on credit cards forever since those last couple of Drew Brees years when they kept trying to make those pushes for a Super Bowl, which is how they ended up with negative $85 million in cap space now. Teams find a way around it. They find a way to understand the math. It's not just the GMs working it out. They have literally dedicated people in the front office that work out the cap numbers for them. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, please let me know in the comments. I'll make a full video breaking it down a lot better. I'll go up to my whiteboard. I'll draw it out examples, give you graphics, player examples, all that fun shit. All right, that's enough preamble. Let's get into these tiers, shall we? We're going to start with the S tier, and without a doubt, this should go without saying, the Atlanta Falcons are having the best offseason out of anybody. They signed the best available free agent with Kirk Cousins. You can argue it's Chris Jones, but Chris Jones went back to Kansas City, so he doesn't count. They managed to give Kirk Cousins his first non-fully guaranteed contract in like 6 years. And I know some of you like to make the Kirk Cousins money jokes, and don't get me wrong, he's a back secure to the fullest. But he doesn't qualify as a stealer of money, ski mask Hall of Famer. And let me tell you why. One, he's too good to qualify for that. Ski Mask Hall of Famer is reserved for players who are not good, that are stealing money. Kirk Cousins ain't stealing a damn thing because you know exactly what you are signing up for when you bring Kirk Cousins into your organization. You hope that you can elevate him to something higher, but you're only fooling yourself, which is the reason why he's not getting Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson money. He gets Kirk Cousins money. And if you are a fantasy football player or an actual receiver or running back on the Falcons, you should be jumping up and down right now. Because another thing Kirk Cousins is great at is making sure all his weapons eat. There has never been a receiver one that has played with Kirk Cousins that has not put up numbers. Even Stephon Diggs, who was mad and left the Vikings, that was not about Kirk Cousins. That was a contract situation. And he wanted to be a wide receiver one, and they preferred Adam Thielen. Was that stupid? Yes, but he was getting his numbers. Justin Jefferson, same thing. You're gonna get your targets with Kirk Cousins. He is a buddy ball All-American. Him and Matt Stafford are like first team all buddy ball. And it was so funny at the press conference. He said him and Kyle Pitts were talking about who's gonna get the number 8. And he tried to offer to pay Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts was like, buddy, just target me every game, and I promise you can have the number. It's fine. It's yours. And he's laughing it off. I'm looking at Kirk Cousins. I'm like, bro, Kyle Pitts is traumatized. Throw that man the ball. But don't you worry, Kirk Cousins will. Speaking of throwing the ball, they also picked up Darnell Mooney, signed him to a nice little 3-year deal, $26 million fully guaranteed. And this is a nice little tidbit I got from Warren Sharp and Sharp Analytics. Nearly 40% of the deep targets of Darnell Mooney's entire career have been inaccurate. I just want you to think about all the quarterbacks who have played for the Bears since Darnell Mooney has been there. That should not come off as a surprise to any of you. Over that span of time, would you like to know who the most accurate deep ball thrower is? You guessed it, Mr. Kirk Cousins. Add in, they also just traded away Desmond Ridder for Rondale Moore with a 1-for-1 player trade, because I feel like Kirk Cousins came in and was like, hey, get that bum out my locker room. It's bad vibes. Get him out of here. And the Falcons, now they have the best quarterback in their division by far. They're now competent. They're 1 or 2 wins away from making the playoffs last year. And the team that won their division was a game out of the NFC Championship. I'm not saying they're the favorites in the NFC, but their ceiling is unbelievably higher simply by these moves they made this offseason. They are a contender in the NFC. Not the favorite, but they are a contender. You got to give them credit for that. Next up in the S tier, we got to go to Philadelphia Eagles, and that goddamn Howie Roseman boy. I just got to read off these names. Saquon Barkley, re-signing Landon Dickinson, bringing back Brandon Graham for another year, bringing in Bryce Huff, who, if you didn't watch the Jets last year, because why would you do that to yourself? He was a very high mark on that team. Brought back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and re-signed Jake Elliott, their kicker, who hits 50-yarders in the rain. I know bringing in Saquon Barkley, there was a lot of news around that. The whole don't pay a running back, division thing, and Giants fans, specifically Tiki Barber, being little, I was going to say something a lot meaner, but that would be my bitter Patriots fans coming out, but we'll get to the Giants later. But I want to focus mainly on people saying the offensive line isn't going to be as good or isn't going to be good at all without Jason Kelce. Now, will they be as good? No. You don't lose a Hall of Fame center and it's like, oh, everything's going to be fine. No, that's not how that works. But they drafted Cam Jurgens years ago with the hopes that he was going to replace Kelce once he retired. Kelce just so happened to play a couple years longer than they planned for. So all those extra years of development, they already have the guy ready to slide in. And plus, not only is this the best offensive line that Saquon Barkley has ever played with, this is the only good one he's ever played with. This is the only good receiving core he's ever played with. This is the only good quarterback he's ever played with. He has had to deal with the ghost of Eli Manning, Daniel Jones, Tommy Cutlets, and Tyrod Taylor has been the best quarterback he's played with his whole career. And y'all expected him to be Barry Sanders. Come on now. Moving on down to the A tier. First team up, we got the Baltimore Ravens, who signed Derrick Henry, re-signed Justin Madubuike, and bought in quarterback Josh Johnson to a 1-year deal. Now, Bomani Jones has one of my favorite football theories ever, where he said if you have a black starting quarterback, you have to have a black backup so that you can keep the fan base calmed down a little bit. So if the black starting quarterback starts fucking up, they're not calling for the white guy. The Ravens have an all-black quarterback room. Even the QB coach is black. I didn't even know they made those. And Josh Johnson, I talked about him for my Black QB History Month, is a bag chaser All-American, baby. Keep bringing him back. But obviously the headline here is signing Derrick Henry. And before I get to the positive, I have to get this out the way. For the fantasy football players, do not, and I repeat, do not draft Derrick Henry in the first 2 rounds. Do not draft Ravens running backs. Don't do it. Everyone falls for it every year. Don't do it. The only person running the football on the Ravens you should draft is Lamar Jackson. Anyone else, no. Either thank me later or once you ignore me and do it, don't say I didn't tell you so. But the thought of Patrick Ricard at damn near 300 pounds and Derrick Henry at 260 coming at you downhill full speed, and the alternative is the quarterback who's the fastest player on the field. Good luck. Good luck. The only reason they're not S tier is because I still think they need offensive line help. Not a big fan of trading away Morgan Moses. Was he perfect? No, but y'all ain't really in position to be getting rid of linemen right now. Also losing Patrick Queen. They re-signed Malik Harrison, but he's not Patrick Queen. I really want to see what they do in the draft. I still think whatever is the better prospect between a receiver and a tackle, they end up going there, but they need both. Luckily, this draft has a shit ton of both of them. Next team in the A tier, we got the Houston Texans, who traded for Joe Mixon, re-signed Dalton Schultz, signed Danielle Hunter, signed not one, not two, but 3 different cornerbacks, and re-signed their safety Eric Murray. Oh, I'm sorry, 4 different cornerbacks. I missed one. They managed to fill their 2 biggest needs with big name players in the offseason. They traded a 7th round pick for Joe Mixon. Shame on the Bengals for letting him go for that low of a price after he took a pay cut for that team. Players, stop taking pay cuts. And then brought in Danielle Hunter, who is 12 to 15 sacks every single year, to put him on the other side of Will Anderson, who's going to take another big leap next year. Jeff Okudah is finally going to prosper on the other side of Derek Stingley Jr. in D'Amico Ryan's defense. I love the moves they made this offseason. I still think, because if you're the Texans, you have to be thinking, how do we compete with the Chiefs right now because you have that quarterback? I still think they're 1 or 2 moves away from putting him in that, all right, we're Super Bowl contenders now. Right now, they're like, all right, we can get 12, 13 wins and lose in the AFC Championship, which for most second-year quarterbacks is cool. But I think they should have a little higher aspirations than that. That's why they're in the A tier. Oh, yeah, and they re-signed their kicker, which is good. Good kickers are hard to find in the NFL. So if you have a good one, hold them down. Next up, we got the B tier, starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars, trading for Mac Jones, signing Gabe Davis, bringing in 3 different offensive linemen with Blake Hance, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morris, franchise tagging Josh Allen, signing Darnell Savage, and signing Eric Armstead as of literally 3 minutes before I press record. After the way Trevor Lawrence got kicked around last year, they needed to bring in some offensive line help. That wasn't negotiable. Would I have preferred if they went out and got a tackle? Sure. Is Tyron Smith still out there? And probably by the time y'all hear this, he might already be a Jaguar? Probably. And that's why they're at the B tier. I like these signings. I really do. But the fact that the 2 biggest needs they had that I felt they had this offseason, which is offensive tackle and cornerback, they still have not filled, is a little concerning. And they might have overpaid for Gabe Davis on the open market, but compared to the contract Calvin Ridley got, they got a bargain. Because we all know wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville is Christian Kirk. We scoffed at his contract he got that time, but right now that shit look like a bargain. And the Patriots fan in me wants to have a much longer Mac Jones discussion. I'll spare you off of that for now. But what I will say is he's not in quarterback competition with Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, that's clickbaity stuff that it's NFL offseason and a lot of podcasts and shows need a topic to talk about. But I will say this. Trevor Lawrence is due for a big contract pretty soon. And just like the Cowboys traded for Trey Lance, and a lot of teams were calling about Trey Lance and they did not deal him. And Dak Prescott's due for a big contract as well. Neither one of them have been re-signed, and both of them have a freshly traded new backup in the locker room. I don't believe in coincidences. Just keeping that in mind. Next up in the B tier, we have the Green Bay Packers. And before we talk about the offseason moves, I just want to take this time to cover Jordan Love in prayer, Mother God, because, oh my Lord, there's something about Green Bay Packer quarterbacks where when they get into a late age in their career, they just lose their goddamn minds. And right now, his options are either steal money from poor people, allegedly, so far doesn't sue me, or I don't even know where to start with Aaron Rodgers. 1 second it's vaccines, the next second it's aliens, the next second it's Jeff Epstein, the next one it's Sandy Hook wasn't real, now he's running for vice president. I don't know, just Aaron Rodgers in general, and just summarize from there. Cover Jordan Love in prayer if you are a praying person. All the prayer warriors out there, say a quick one for Jordan Love tonight, please. But anyways, bringing in Josh Jacobs, re-signing Tyler Davis, re-signing 2 corners, one of which is their kick returner. I like it. Bring the corners back. And my favorite signing they made is signing Xavier McKinley, who was if the Patriots don't bring back Kyle Duggar, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, go get Xavier McKinley. I wanted him coming out of Alabama, but that didn't work out that way. But again, they still have that gaping hole of they don't have a top flight wide receiver 1, and they still need a top flight corner because who knows what's going on with them and Jair Alexander right now. And re-signing these young guys are nice, but you're going to need a vet in there soon because Jordan Love, again, cover him in prayer, is going to be in position to make a leap and be a contending quarterback. And as an organization, it is in your best interest to surround him with the best chance to be a contending quarterback. Just saying. Moving on down to the C tier, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who famously traded for Russell Wilson, signed Patrick Queen, traded for Deontay Jackson, and re-signed their long snapper. Ooh, how fun. Now, the reason they're in the C tier is okay, you made some moves, and I see where you're going, but meh. And that's kind of why I feel about this. It's meh. I don't believe anyone who says that Russell Wilson is in quarterback competition with Kenny Pickett. Bullshit. Bullshit. You don't sign Russell Wilson, I don't care how much his contract costs, with plans of putting him on the bench. If they still believed in Kenny Pickett, you don't bring in a former Super Bowl winning quarterback and one of the most famous quarterbacks we have in the league to come in and be his backup to push him. That's not how this works. Unless Russ gets hurt or completely fucks it up, he will be a starter next year. Also, I really like the Patrick Queen signing. I like the fact now that the Steelers have an all-pro at all three levels. They got Mink on the back end, they got Patrick Queen in the middle, and they got two up front actually with Cam Hayward, although he might be in a different phase of his career, and TJ Watt on the front end. It's beautiful. I like the way it's looking, but do any of these moves make you think, oh yeah, the Steelers can compete with the Chiefs right now? No, not at all. Next up in the C tier, we have the Los Angeles Rams, who re-signed DeMarcus Robinson, signed Colby Parkinson, re-signed Kevin Dotson, signed Jonah Jackson, and signed Demarius Williams. My biggest question for the Rams going into the offseason was, how are we going to maximize the rest of Matt Stafford's career? You know what a great way to do that is? Bring in some linemen. They went in and brought in Jonah Jackson from the Lions, who they had first-hand experience of how good of a player that man is. They would have gets him in the playoffs, and he got the manhandling folks. And I'm sure they made a call to Aaron Donald and was like, hey, is he that good? Yes, he is. Bring him in. And I like what I saw from Kobe Turner last year and a lot of those other young guys on the defensive front end, but I do think they need one more guy, just one more, that more than likely they'll find in the draft, because they draft really, really well. There's one more guy on that defensive front seven, and I think they'll be cooking with grease next year. All right, now we'll get to our honorable mentions, the technically not in the tier list, but they're in the tier list. First up, the Tennessee Titans. They signed Mason Rudolph, brought in Tony Pollard, signed Calvin Ridley for all the money in the world, brought in Lloyd Cushenberry, signed Chidobe Awuzie, signed Kenneth Murray, signed Nick Folk, and also they found a long snapper. The Calvin Ridley contract feels like they're overcorrecting for the A.J. Brown mistake, which to some extent, don't make the same mistake twice, but to other extent, don't let your past mistakes now paint your future. But I do like the idea of bringing in another veteran receiver and a veteran center. Like that's the sneaky one that people don't think about when it comes to curating a young quarterback. A veteran center who can make those line calls and make the protection calls so that he's not getting lit the fuck up back there. Pretty fucking important. Good on you, Titans. Good on you. But I don't know where in the rebuild process they are, because even with making all these moves, they're still the worst team in their division. I don't know. And they're saying veteran mentorship, bringing in Mason Rudolph. I don't know how you can watch Mason Rudolph's career or Kenny Pickett's development and think that's an actual thing. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders as an honorable mention, signing Gardner Minshew, re-signing Amir Abdullah, re-signing center Andre James, and my favorite, bringing in Christian Wilkins. The idea of Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby on the same defensive line gives me the warm fuzzies. Like, the thought that they will both be rushing the passer at the same time is just mwah. Whatever madman in the front office decided to make that move, good on you. Good on you. You may not be able to outscore Mahomes, but you can beat the shit out of him. That's one way to get it done. The reason they're not on a tier list is, why is Josh Jacobs on another team? 4 years, $48 million? Y'all ain't had $12 million a year? Y'all had 2 years, $25 million for Gardner Minshew. Anyone who actually thinks Gardner Minshew played well last year must not have been watching the Colts and have just been watching their win-loss record. He was not good last year. They were winning in spite of him, not because of him. All right, dishonorable mentions. Got two teams here. First up, the New York Giants. Oh, buddy. This one's rough. They brought in Drew Lock, signed Devin Singletary, Isaiah McKenzie. The two signings they have that I actually do like, signed Jermaine Elamanier? Yeah, that sounds right. Offensive guard John Runyon. Traded for Brian Burns and gave him all the money in the world. 5 years, $76 million fully guaranteed. And brought in Jalen Mills. The reason they are a dishonorable mention is because you let your best player walk outside the door because you overpaid for a quarterback that every rumor suggests you already want to get rid of. And you are doubling down on those moves with all the moves you just made. So you bring in a lesser running back, trade for Brian Burns, didn't have to give up too much, especially considering that the Rams almost gave up 2 firsts and a second for him last year. But you then pay him, knowing you're also going to have to pay Kayvon Thibodeau next year because he took a leap. I just don't know what are the Giants doing? What are they doing? Like, what the fuck is going on in the Giants front office? And Giants fans have the nerve to get mad at Saquon Barkley for wanting to leave this dumpster fire who didn't even offer him a contract. Imagine not even offering your best player a contract. They didn't even try to franchise tag him for the second year in a row. They just let him walk. And the fans have the nerve to get mad at him because he went to a rival. Fuck, y'all want him to work an internship at the Giants? Fuck out of here. All right, so there's probably another team that's more fitting to be in the dishonorable mention spot, but I'm biased, so fuck it. The New England Patriots are in the dishonorable mention spot. I don't even feel like going through all the moves that they went through because it's a lot of re-signings, bringing back a lot of retreads. And quite honestly, here's the real reason I'm real upset at the Patriots offseason. In the months since Belichick has no longer been the head coach of the Patriots, every leaked story, this whole absolutely kamikaze smear campaign attack that is the Dynasty documentary on Apple TV, everything is saying Bill Belichick has been the problem this whole time. Tom Brady and Robert Kraft were able to build the dynasty in spite of him, only for this offseason to be the most Belichick-y offseason we've ever had. What makes me say that? Because with the exception of Antonio Gibson, everyone we signed is a Belichick guy. All of them. All this bullshit that they were telling us about how we're going to spend money in the offseason. Oh, we're going to go spend on some free agents. Bullshit. We got $250 million to build a goddamn lighthouse, but we can't use the cap space that we would need to spend anyways on something to go get some blue chippers. We ain't even re-signed Kyle Duggar yet. He still got his tag on him. What are we doing? Now all of a sudden they're trying to steer it to, oh, well, Elliott Wolf always wanted to build through the draft. Nah, bruh, we have the article still. We still have the snippets. We have your interviews. They're still on YouTube. We can find them. Why are you lying to us right now? Why? All right, last point I wanted to make. I feel like I've been taking crazy pills about the Justin Fields situation for months now, especially now that y'all are trying to tell me that there is no market at all for Justin Fields when I just saw that Nathan Peterman just got another job in the NFL. He's on the Saints now. What are we doing? And you're telling me nobody wants to trade for Justin Fields. Unless a story comes out that the Bears are just asking for too goddamn much, okay, that's different. But if you're telling me no one thinks Justin Fields is a starter level quarterback when I just watched Sam Darnold get a guaranteed $10 million when we all know he fucking stinks, like, come on, bro. Sam Darnold, this is not going to be team number 4 for him, but we still got to see what his potential. But I'm supposed to believe that Justin Fields isn't a starting level quarterback anymore after we all know the Bears are a fucking dumpster fire. Speaking of dumpster fires, if you're the New York Jets, you have to get another option at quarterback this year. It is essential. You cannot do this Aaron Rodgers shit anymore. I'm not saying trade him. I'm not saying cut him. But you cannot go into this season again with Aaron Rodgers being your only option. That was already the case because he's 40 years old coming off an Achilles tear. But now with all this bullshit that's going on with him, there's a chance this man could be in court filing the defamation lawsuit because he's denying whether the Sandy Hook children were actually killed when their parents are still mourning their death a decade later. He already skated from accusing Jimmy Kimmel of being a fucking pedophile. And then Robert F. Kennedy, and I almost don't even want to give that a dignified response because an unserious presidential candidate is going to pick an unserious vice presidential candidate. Duh. And if his name was Robert F. Smith Jr. and not Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we wouldn't even be talking about that man. But all this extracurricular bullshit around Aaron Rodgers, bro, if I'm the Jets, I trade for Justin Fields right now. I'm Joe Douglas. I'm calling Ron Poles right now. Bro, name your price. Just name it. Anything short of a first-round draft pick, it's yours. It's all yours. First-round draft pick and our obvious blue chippers on our roster is yours. We cannot do this Aaron Rodgers shit again.